Five, four. You are looking live at the second episode of the Jacksonian, as I am yours truly, Jackson Johnson. As I have with me is Dale Wolfley, aka the Wolfman, from the Wolfman's Call from Boyce College Football, West Virginia. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing good tonight there, Jackson. I'm getting ready to go. Got my Steelers outfit on tonight, so it's only about an hour away from Pittsburgh. Fans. I got a brother that played for the Steelers. My brother played for the Cardinals, so I have to represent. And of course, I got my Bills as well.
Oh, that is so cool, man. That is so cool. Would you like to tell the audience a little more about yourself?
Oh, yeah, sure. I am the Wolfman. Is this WWE? I would do like, yeah. No, I'm Dale Wolfley. Let's see. I have my own show, The Wolfman's Call. I also have a show with my two brothers, Greg and Ron Wolfley, the Three Wolves of Football. I used to do the alumni for WVU Athletics for the last 15 years, 14 years, something like that. Last year, I've been off doing my own shows. I was at the network, WVU Football Network, doing the TV, radio with Neil Brown and Dana Holgerson, and the Neil Brown, Dana Holgerson TV and radio shows, and doing the pre, halftime, and post game for like 10 years, man. So last year I got off on my own, started out, and now I'm just rocking my own shows and going after it. It's WVU football, WVU basketball. It's current sports, current issues, whatever it is. It's the Wolfman's Call.
Oh yeah, the Wolfman's Call. Woo!
There you go.
There you go. That's right, man. And I'd like to go over first your reaction from a West Virginia perspective, if you will. Now, as of Saturday, BYU, Cincinnati, Central Florida, and Houston have joined the Big 12. What's your reaction to it from a West Virginia football and basketball perspective?
Well, honestly, there's good and there's bad to everything. And when I look at it, it sucks that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. There's no doubt about it. Though those are two marquee names that you would rather keep in it than lose it. And it's nice to see a Cincinnati. It's nice to see a BYU. A lot of respect for BYU, even though they're the old people, because they go ahead and go on their trips and then they come back and they're probably 25, 26 year olds against 20-year-olds. But regardless, I have always had a lot of respect for BYU. But I look at that Houston, I think of Dana Holgerson. Oh my gosh, that's just makes me laugh. I was on the radio show and his TV show for 7 years, and now that they're going to be facing each other, and the way he left at the time, and just funny stuff. And so Cincy, I like Cincy. Let's see, UCF. Don't have much thoughts on UCF. I know that they're the biggest university in the state of Florida. They are, I think, the landmark of Florida, and so I think that they got a great, fan base. Obviously, they can get great athletes that go there. Watch out for them because I think they might sneak up on a lot of teams that they have all that Florida talent, and now they're Power Five instead of G5. So again, I like it. People are gonna say, "Yeah, I like Cincinnati because now we have someone that West Virginia could go. We could go travel to their games where it's only 5 hours away instead of driving, 10 hours or more to Iowa State." But it really, really didn't matter to me about the distance because a plane trip's a plane trip, and regardless of all that, I just terribly hate to miss the Sooners and the Longhorns just for who they are, the marquee. But I'll tell you what, I'm really going to miss the steaks out there. They were the best steaks in Texas, Oklahoma. I guess I can still get it with Oklahoma State.
So I'm looking at the history of like the matchups that West Virginia has against each of the four new schools, right? Now they went up against Central Florida when Central Florida, I don't even think was in the Conference USA at that time, and West Virginia basically stomped a mud hole in them in 2003 and 2004. Let me tell you, it was not pretty to be associated with Central Florida back then. And I'm looking at the Cincinnati history, and one game comes into mind, and it was the 2008 game
Mhm.
during the Big East play. That 15-second comeback that West Virginia made, like holy cow! Like fans were leaving in droves, but then somebody's like, "Hey, West Virginia's making a comeback." Oh man! And
Yeah, you know what? Cincinnati, you know about Cincinnati, you said, right? You said, yeah, okay. So the Bearcats. Now, listen, when I played the Bearcats, man, you talk about a steamroll. We used to steamroll them. In fact, we used to play them once in a while in Cincinnati at the old Riverfront Stadium because we didn't actually play. And I'm talking about, we're talking 88 through 90 range. And, you know, we used to beat them 65-3, whatever the score may be. But there would be Riverfront Stadium, and so there's where the Bengals play. There's like 60,000 seat stadium, and there'd be 5,000 Mountaineers and 300 Bearcats, and that would be it, and that would be the whole stadium. But then get up there when they came into the Big East, and Miami and Virginia Tech and Syracuse and Pitt left, and that's when they came in. They were much tougher then, and it was. Oh gosh, the coach from uh, LSU now. That was the
Brian Kelly.
yeah. So Brian Kelly was there, and so he really changed that program. And in Cincinnati was tough, and we played at their old stadium, which is downtown. I was in the coaching staff then, and they really did have some uh, tough kids, and they're kind of like the same way they are right now. Honestly, is they've really kept that program going since then for the last 15 years, where they've always been, even though they weren't Power Five or G5 when that's, but they were competitive. I mean, there are times when they went out to the West Coast, they beat Oregon, they did some really wild things for where they came from. That was really shocking. And so at times they were really tough, and they actually won the Big East the one year, I believe. So
Yeah.
that pissed me off.
Oh yeah, that was in like '09 when Cincy won the Big East
Yeah,
outright.
I remember, man. I was on the staff then. Yep.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like I'm sorry that you went down against them, man.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? That's why you play the games, dog. That's why you play the games.
I especially hate that you guys went down in '08. Like after that 15-second comeback, like you were on the coaching staff at that time. Like, wow, that's just awesome. Oh man.
No, yeah, it was. I mean, it was the kicks, unbelievable field goal. I
Oh.
can't remember how far it was, but it was pretty darn far. The field goal.
Well, and I'm seeing also that the only time that you guys played BYU was once in 2016,
Yeah,
and
that was the bowl game. And when we was it a bowl? No, wait,
no, it was week 4.
week 4. There you go. Okay, so week 4, yeah. We beat them. It was a good game though. I remember that. And we, it was. Wait a minute.
You guys
We
started.
didn't go to BYU, did we? We weren't at BYU. No, we weren't
No,
at.
it was a neutral site
That's
game,
right. That's neutral.
Maryland, and you guys started the 2016 season off with Missouri.
Yeah. Yes, I remember. Yes, we did beat them, and it was neutral site. That's why I had the confusion with the bowl game because I didn't think it was a home and home there. But again, hey, now listen, now you're going to bring BYU in again. I mean, uh, people are saying that they're not going to be that good this year. I've never seen a BYU team that wasn't competitive to some degree. So I will say that Utah has risen up the last 8 years. It kind of equaled or overshadowed BYU a little bit because of the Pac-12 and Utah. But other than that, I think that Gary Anderson, the coach out there, has got a lot to do with it. But BYU is going to be a tough competition. When you look at the entire Big 12, but I don't care who you bring in, man. You bring in Oklahoma, or you lose Oklahoma, you lose Texas, you're still losing the marquee. That's it.
Well, and I've also looked at the history that you guys have had against Houston. Um,
What
y'all
history?
haven't played Houston at all in the football series, but this year will be the first one ever. And it'll be on Thursday night on Fox Sports 1 at Houston. I'm just kind of like, man, if it were only in Morgantown.
Oh, probably will be the next year, right? So I mean, it's good. I it's gonna be funny, and I look forward to it just because to see Dana again coaching against the Mountaineers. I'm sure he's going to have something up his sleeve that he wants to throw out there against West Virginia. I don't think he likes WVU very much. I think when he left WVU, he probably was in a place where he couldn't wait to get to Houston and get out of WVU. So, with that being said, I think that he will look at this game and do whatever he can to go ahead and to beat the Mountaineers. That's just my personal opinion. For being on a radio show, a coaching show, uh, and being with him for 7 years. That's his personality.
There you go. So I'm thinking about like the strengths and weaknesses that we need to look for. What are the strengths that we need to look out for that West Virginia has in the 2023 season?
Well, you don't need much time for this. I'm going to tell you right now, the strengths is the offensive line. There's no doubt about it. You can talk about Zach Frazier at center, All American. You have left tackle Wyatt Milam, who I think should be at least third team All American this year. Probably won't be because he's already has been placed in a spot. Like he should be preseason Big 12 second team right now. He's not. So you look at that, he'll probably have to wait to senior year to become All American, but he's going to be a first round draft pick, in my opinion. He keeps continuing growing like he's doing. He'll be first day. And then you got Doug Nestor over there on the other side, who is an older guy. He's fifth year guy, and he's a big, strong dude. And so you got to go Remack, who's a redshirt sophomore this year. Well, I thought really has been growing Thomas Remack out of Ohio. And well, I tell you, he's a tough son of a gun. And of course, you know, they're looking for that right guard position. And Jaquan who's there. So I think the offensive line is really solid. I think they got some good tight ends. They got Cole Taylor, the tight end out of LSU, transferred in. They got Traylon Davis, who's a youngster that's been coming up to the ranks of WVU. Now, then they got some wide receivers, but they're young and talent. Problem is, you know, you got all these young, talented guys that just aren't proven. Running back is obviously a very big strength for the Mountaineers. They have three running backs that they could go all the way. C.J. Donaldson was just an outstanding freshman last year. He came in as a tight end in summer camp and ended up as a running back for the Mountaineers. And if you saw that pick game, whatever started off, and he had 200 yards. He got hurt the seventh game of the season, was out for the rest of the season. But boy, those first 6 games were really, really impressive. And I would say, too, you know, Justin Jump Cut Johnson is another tailback that's really strong. He's got a jump cut in there. You know what a jump cut is, Jackson? You know what that is? That's where you got jump, right? Jump cut, right? Okay, you jump cut. You stop at a dime. It's the old Barry Sanders jump cut, right? Well, that's Justin Jump Cut Johnson. And so they got some really good there. Now, you want to get defense, it's a weakness. Well, you know, that's probably right now, to me, the weakness going into camp. Let's hoping that they can get it together. That would certainly be it. You know, I forgot the quarterback. Sorry, back up real quick step. You got young quarterbacks. You got Nico Marchio, who's going to be a freshman, who's 4-star out of Arizona, going to be special. And they have Garrett Green, who's another quarterback, who's a junior. The two are battling it out. I think that Nico's eventually going to win, but Garrett may get it. He can run the ball. I think he's good for one pass and run, whereas I think Nico can go through the progression. They just need some time to grow. So, but defensively, yeah, I think that's where they really need to grow, get a strong point going. And I see it's going to take some time, and I have my concerns. I have a lot of concerns over the defense.
Yeah, to your point about the defense, I'm looking at the rankings right now. The scoring defense was 115th in the nation. Not good. The running game on defense is 66th in the nation. And these are last season stats. The passing game was 110th. And the total yards allowed was 97th in the nation. Now, what can the defense do to I'm not saying it has to be like top 10, but what can they do to at least get to, let's say, the top 50?
Hmm. Well, I guess I'll have to tell you what they have to do. What they have to do is they have to put a chip on their shoulder and say, "I'm tired of getting our butts kicked." All right, they're gonna have to go up there and guys like Sean Martin, Lee Coba. Sean Martin's a defensive end. Lee Coba. Sean Martin's a very good football player. Now, what they're lacking is this overall talent and depth because you got to have depth in the Big 12 and the defensive line especially. They lost their defensive lineman. They lost Taj Alston to Colorado to Deion Sanders. They lost their nose guard JJ Jordan Jefferson to LSU. Okay, who's been there for 4 years. They lost Dante Stills to the Arizona Cardinals in the NFL draft. So now they got these guys that were doing 15 to 20 reps besides Sean Martin, who really is strong. He's strong. Okay, he's a solid player. These other guys don't know about him. Saw him on 15, 20 reps a game. I'm watching him. I watched the spring game. Wasn't impressed by that. So what do they got to do? They got to put a chip on their shoulder. They got to get tough. They got to be like, we're going to play hard, physical, and the stunts that they're doing there and the schemes that they're doing did not work last year. So the coaches got to come together and figure out what is this defense good? What makes this defense good? Now they have some talent there, but there's also some young talent. They don't have a lot of seniors. They got Audrey Burks, the safety back there, who's for PFF. Now, I'm Pro Football Focus is good stuff, but I don't sit there and say, hey, PFF rated him here, PFF rated him there, because what the heck do they know? Are they the ones coaching them in the thing? So half the time, I'm looking at that skeptical as to how they grade them out. But they do have Audrey Burks as the highest rated safety returning in the Big 12. Oh, okay. So there are spots that are good. The cornerback situation really needs to be proven out. Until I see this whole defensive unit, and unfortunately, I won't see him until Penn State. And that in itself is a whole different scenario, a whole different issue, whole different challenge, if you will. But after I see that, I will be able to tell you exactly where this defense is at, where it needs to go, how it needs to get better. But if they don't start off with a chip on their shoulder, if they don't start off with being pissed, if they don't start off with being mean, if they don't start off with being physical, if they don't start off with a hard-nosed mentality, if they don't start off with, we're going to go ahead, because people are laughing at our defense. Because whatever the stats you just gave, they were allowing 32 points a game last season. They looked like they got run out of the stadium at times. Teams pulled off the dogs in the third quarter because Kansas scored 55 in overtime. 55 points.
Yeah.
Jayhawks. Okay? That's all you got to say. And until they go ahead and show me that they can play, because Lee Coba, Sean Martin, they're tough. Audrey Burks, tough. That's 3 out of 11. I want to see what else everybody else has. And they got a lot to prove. And good. Let's see it. And I hope they do. And I want them to say, hey, Wolf, you know what? Here, up yours. And I'll be happy. All right, I'll be happy. Like, yeah, man, cool. Good. Because I want to see that from you, and I want to see you tough. Because last year there was no toughness. There was no physicality. There was nothing there besides a few like Dante Stills, okay? But I'm talking about overall defense. There's Xavier Worthy of Texas ran by everybody. And in the West Virginia secondary, they all looked at him as he ran by. And they're like, hey, see ya. You know what I mean? Like, all right, go. Texas Tech, all those wide receivers. Woo, there they go. Oh, man, is this, what? Am I supposed to follow them? I mean, that's the type we're looking at, going through and going ahead and recruiting some guys that really needed some time to develop, because they got G5 guys out there. They got FCS guys out there. Well, you know what? And they had young P5 guys out there. So you put all that together, and it was kind of a mess for the defense. So until they go ahead and prove that they can play defense, that's the big black eye, probably 2 black eyes at 6 out.
Well, I was saddened to see West Virginia lose a 2-possession game against Kansas last year in overtime on ESPN Plus. I was sad to see the West Virginia loss to Pitt in the backyard brawl. But on the bright side, you do get the hold on to the Black Diamond Trophy for 2 straight years against Virginia Tech, and you guys did beat Oklahoma for the first time in the history of playing Oklahoma in the Big 12, and you beat Oklahoma State on rivalry week. So you got you owned the state of Oklahoma last year. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, what a surprise it was considering that the year. But I'll tell you this right here. You could say, yeah, they did. I mean, Mims, the wide receiver, Oklahoma, dropped 2 touchdowns. The score really should have been a walk away for Oklahoma. That defense of Oklahoma was ranked 11th in tackles for losses. Okay, they're 11th in the nation. They're also at like 115th against the run. So what's going on here that you can be so good in TFLs, but then get burned on every other play? And when you think about it, this is what it is. And West Virginia suffers the same thing. It's all these new ways of playing defense. They're doing passing game twists and stunts against running game situations. And when you get caught, you get caught. And when you get and penetrate, you penetrate and you make tackles for losses. The problem is, you tackle for a 3-yard loss and then they run for 13 yards. All right, it's simple. I've showed it on my show. I break down football on my show all the time. I use video. I get the wide. I get the end zone, and there's a lack of gap integrity in many defenses nowadays. There's a lack. I don't understand why these defensive coordinators are making money they make and putting the crap out there that they put out there. It's unbelievable. There's a lack of legitimate coaching in college football in the Power Five, where there's defenses that just don't make sense. They don't have gap integrity. And you can say I'm old school, you can say whatever, but when you're running a passing twist again and the 2nd and 5, and they're running the ball, and you get your butt kicked out because they don't cover each and every gap. Okay, that's a problem, and that's what I see more and more. Now, you go to the SEC, I don't see a whole lot of that junk going on. I'll be honest with you. I see gap integrity. I see Nick Saban still coaching gap integrity. But I don't see a whole lot of that going on with the bigger coaches. We'll see. We'll see this year, but I want to see if that's a one-year fluke. I'll tell you, Oklahoma did not want to be there last year against West Virginia. I'll say it again. It was cold. It was rainy. They sucked. And this year that everybody was telling them they sucked, it was at the end of the year. Oklahoma State, then they quit. West Virginia ran 2 plays back-to-back, both 65 and 68-yard touchdowns. I mean, you talk about Oklahoma State, they quit out there. And, it's okay. So we're 5-7. Pulled it out the last because we were, 3-7 going into those 2 games. So regardless, whatever it is, that's it. Until West Virginia proves they can play defense, they are not in the running anywhere near the Big 12.
So I've been looking at, I was just looking at Oklahoma State's schedule from last year. So they started out 6-1, right?
Yep.
And then they're like 7-1 going in Kansas State. They lose to them, and then they blow up against Kansas, look like a disaster against them. The only win they get after they start out 6-1 is against Iowa State. That's it.
Yep.
I'm like, good Lord. You fell apart, OK State. And after you had all these expectations on you, I mean, good Lord.
I wasn't real happy, the state of Oklahoma last year, I don't think.
Oh, man.
I think they got beat up by a few unusual teams, and when West Virginia beats both your teams there in Oklahoma, that is a little bit different, or at least it has been for the past 10 years, right? No doubt.
Right. So there we go. Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports says, great interview so far. Thanks for watching, Jeffrey, and thank you for giving your commentary on this interview. I want to go over the history, and this is something I've been really going over, right? The history of the backyard brawl, and I went with my top 5 games, and I got a few honorable mentions, and I hope you won't get your feelings hurt by number 1, honestly, but to tell you the truth, number one was what really got me to watching this game. So, but my honorable mentions were the garbage game from 1961, where Pitt was shooting her mouth off, saying, "Oh well, West Virginia's garbage," but then next year West Virginia beats them 20-6. 1965 was a high-scoring game where West Virginia won 63-48. 1970 was the blown 35-8 lead by West Virginia, where Pitt wound up scoring 28 unanswered points against Bobby, which Bobby Bowden said was the worst day of his life in his coaching career.
You learned a lot that day.
He most certainly did. And another honorable mention I got is the 2009 Black Friday game, where West Virginia pulled an upset over Pittsburgh, where even though they didn't destroy Pittsburgh's Big East title hopes, they destroyed a little slim to none shot that they had at the national title.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did that to us the year before, right? I mean, it was just a little bit of a payback there by the two teams. I mean, you can go back to, I mean, Pitt, how many years have we played them now? Over like 105, 106, 107? What is it? I can't even remember, but I know there's some times that they split, and I know that earlier times they were kicking our can, and then when I played, we were kicking their can, and it's gone back and forth. But I'll say this: since Don Neal there, I think we're ahead in that department. Yeah, Pitt sucks, man. What do you want me to tell you about him? Besides, I could go back to 1983. You just said that was when Jeff Hostetler did the fake to my brother Ronnie, and he did the end around, and he did the keeper, and I forget.
That was the fake handoff, was it, to your brother? Oh my God, that's so awesome.
That was a fake handoff to him, and so I'm calling the spring game, right? On ESPN Plus. I'm like, oh, look, it's a handoff to Ron Wolfley. No. Oh, no. That's Haas going around the end for a touchdown. I had to catch myself because I'm here on TV because I thought it was really a handoff because he did such a good job. The Chuck, the executive producer of the game that we were broadcasting, he's like, hey, listen, you just got to go ahead and do this clip of all the Pitt games. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, hey, hang on now, right? Because I'm like, all this stuff. So Amos Zeraway's first run against Pitt was like a 68-yard touchdown. I had to remember that. The Haas and the fake, there was like 4 or 5 plays. Zach Abraham, the pass from Chad Johnson, with 15 seconds left in the game. I'm like, I'm calling it. I'm just going on, like trying to remember. And it's like, oh my goodness. I can't believe you just threw that at me without any preparation. And so I got through it, but it was by the skin of my teeth, That's, like I said, national TV and all that good stuff. And but we did get through it. So listen, what do you want to talk about with this Pitt stuff? What do you want to know? You want to know about the Pitt Panthers when they beat us 13-9? McAfee missed 3 field goals. See, Pat White got his thumb injured, and Rich Rod the next day went up to Michigan. Worst day in WVU recent modern history, even more than when we lost the Fiesta Bowl for the national championship to Notre Dame, because there was no way Pitt should have beat the Mountaineers that day, and it was a perfect Pitt game and a lot of perfect storm for the Mountaineers. We were going to go play Ohio State. We'd go ahead and beat that game against Pitt, and we were going to go there. It was already set. They lost, so they ended up playing Oklahoma. The Fiesta Bowl, Rich Rod had left. We beat Oklahoma, stomped their can, but it was all because of that Pitt game. And so all the fans of Pitt were so happy because I think they were like 4-7 or 4-8 or whatever. I can't remember what they were, but it was Dave Wanstead and
they were 4-7 going into the back.
And they beat us 13. Like I said, McAfee missed 3 field goals and he never misses. And just fluky things happen, and they didn't go. And that was, I will say, is that was probably the worst day for football for WVU. And, the time that I never felt worse after a game than that game. Even now, you can say, you lost the national championship. Well, I won 11 games that year on that team, and it was not as bad as 13-9 to Pitt, of all things. So the next year coming back and doing that, I was on the staff and coaching and all that. So it was nice to kick them out and beat them. And I could go back to my games, 1989, 1988, kicked their can 88, 89. We're up 31-8, going into the fourth quarter. I mean, I'm just kicking the crap out of myself, and we're just, I got spin around on the other side. Defensive tackle played for 9 years of the Lions, and he's talking crap. Well, I'm just kicking his can. And, and I'm like, yeah, go ahead. He wore a headband the night before saying kill Wolfley because my brother Craig was up with the Steelers. Just all this history, man. Oh, it's bad blood. That's what it was, just bad blood. And that's what it was. And we fought, and we sit down. And I talk about his mother, and he talked about me and all that. We just went back and forth. And that's the way we are with Pitt and the Panthers. So what you want to talk about? We don't like each other. Pitt is a 4-letter word. They suck. All right? Narduzzi. All right? Jerk. Don't like him at all. Respect him now. Let's put it. I think he's a good coach. Respect. I think he's hard-nosed, but I don't like him. And he can go back to Michigan State, or he can head out of Pitt, whatever he does. But regardless, we'll see him at Morgantown right there on the field. And this year, they got lucky last year. You know what I'm talking about last year?
Oh, yeah, that pick six.
Well, no, they didn't get lucky. I take that back because they got to take some responsibility for the Mountaineers. The missed tackles after catches was really what killed the Mountaineers. We missed, there's 87, I think I counted up 87 yards, 14 points after missed tackles that were basic tackles after a catch the Panthers made. And then we went ahead and threw it right off the head of a wide receiver for an interception. The Mountaineers should have won that game. And I think that probably was a little bit of foreshadowing for the season to come. And even though we did, the one bright spot was we did beat Virginia Tech. But you know what? Virginia Tech was really bad. I was really surprised. They were on offense. They stunk. I mean, they were bad. And you know why they were bad? I'm going to tell you why. And this is probably unfair to them, but they went and got a quarterback from Marshall. All this G5, P5, I think they actually mean something. So when you get recruited at your time and all these G5s offer you and then all these P5s offer you, okay, but they're not usually both. It's not usually a whole lot of P5s offer a lot of G5s. Okay, it's just you're a P5 for a reason, you're G5 for a reason. You know what I'm saying by that? Power 5 for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you go ahead and you throw your whole thing for a quarterback from Marshall to come over to you to play at Virginia Tech, I think that's lowering your standards, man. And that's nothing against Marshall. That's just, I expect a Power 5 quarterback. That's why we have Power 5s. That's why we have G5s. That's why you only see one team that's a G5 ever play in the playoffs. And then you saw what happened. I mean, there's Power 5 and there's G5. Why are we getting these confused? I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. All these coaches are like, all these kids are transfer portals and like, well, this kid's good over here. And we have like 6, 7 G5s, maybe even an FCS guy. I'm like, wait a minute, you're Power 5. Why are you taking all these Power 5, but these G5? I mean, it's crazy. So, I think it's important to realize that if you're a Power 5, you better start recruiting some Power 5s, both from high school and from the transfer portal. That's where you better go.
That's for sure. To your point about how like the Pittsburgh game was like a season that was just kind of gonna let us know what was gonna be happening in West Virginia. So I remember watching a little bit of that West Virginia TCU game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's that offsides penalty on West Virginia where they jumped a little too early, but then Max Duggan threw a little touchdown here and there. Now, do you think if West Virginia hadn't jumped too early, so to speak, do you think they would have been able to force a 3 and out and then possibly pull off that upset, thus killing the Big 12's shot at a playoff team in 2022? Or do you think it still would have been like a TCU win, but not by like 10 points?
Well, TCU was going to win that game. They were not into it in the second half. They pulled off the dogs. It was. I remember Neil Brown saying, "Hey, we played against them." It was, no, you're not winning that game. It's TCU. Sorry, not happening. I mean, let's face it, you're West Virginia. No one really gave a crap about you. They didn't bring out their best. They had to go to Morgantown. They had to fly to Clarksburg, drive 40 minutes, go into Morgantown. There's no way that West Virginia was going to win that game, and they didn't deserve to win that game. And honestly, if I remember right, Duggan was hurt most of the time in that game, so he couldn't throw very well. But there's no chance that, in my mind, there's no chance they're going to win. Yeah, they if you remember, how many points they scored in the first half? You got that on your stats? I can't remember, but it was all in the first half, the points, except for like 10 points in the second, and they call off the dogs. All right, I mean, if you want to say, if the TCU wanted, if they played intensely the first half, the second half, it would have been by 25 points. They would have won. Right?
Right. So,
I mean, I don't like when you sit there and say, the game's already over. How many times, what you got to look at is how many times is the game over in the first half last year? You go to Texas, you go to Texas Tech. Okay, all of them are first half. But what happened in the second half? They call off the dogs. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's like, what is that, your moral victory? I mean, so my second half is better than the first half because they called off the dogs? Heck no. If you want to be real, be real. If you want to be truthful, be truthful. Don't tell me that it's raining outside, but really you're just throwing a bucket of water over my head.
I love that metaphor, man.
That's the truth. I mean, is they called off the dogs. And that's what TCU did. And maybe I don't think anyone on that team got nervous. Do you?
Nope.
I mean, I don't think so. But then again, and then they went up ahead and they lost by, 50? Yeah. So, I mean, everybody has their day for sure. But anybody can win at any given time. And I'm not sitting here trying to create a hard time for last year, but they sucked last year. That's what they did. You got to call, a penny, a nickel's a nickel, a dime's a dime, right? I mean, that's what it is. It's not a nickel's not a quarter. That defense was nothing but terrible last year. Any way you want to cut it.
Right. Absolutely. So I wanted to go back to like the top 5 of the Backyard Brawl. Now, again, apologies for putting 2007 at number 1, but that was what really got me into watching the Backyard Brawl. But you will be happy to know that number 3 is higher than number 4 and 5. Number 5 was last year because of like the renewal and how Pitt won. Number 4 was 2011, the last Backyard Brawl matchup in Big East play, where West Virginia had a little comeback victory against Pitt.
Yeah, it was on staff then. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. It was a last-second field goal, right?
Right.
Yeah, we weren't even sure our kicker was going to be able to make that one. I remember that. Yeah, that was great, man. It was great. It was the last game. Anytime you beat Pitt, it's a darn victory. That's a solid victory. That's a happy victory. That it's a kick to the groin to the other team. It's a punch to the eye. It's a black eye. It means that much. And what I think from last year, the rivalry. I mean, if you saw, it was just a great atmosphere. It was great. That was the most ever watched in a sporting event in the city of Pittsburgh. Most ever fans attended in the city of Pittsburgh. And it was like one of the best on Thursday nights of the season. And so that just shows you that people still love that rivalry. Now, I'm not sure that any of those guys understood that rivalry. I'm not sure if they really truly understood it. Now, they tried to do their best to bring it back, but I'll be honest with you. I think Neil Brown said to Narduzzi on this field, can you believe it's craziness for all this? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what did you just say? What did you say? You said that, can you believe this craziness? I said, dude, I don't think you understand who WVU and who Pitt is. I don't think you understand about the absolute total, I dislike you passionately as much as I can to any football team, anything, that we take pride. Our legacy, us old people, us old guys take pride in the fact that we kicked their can and that we're going to kick their can and continue. Well, what do you mean you don't understand that? What do you mean? That's what pisses me off. And for that was a major issue to me. And I sat there, I was like, that's what we're missing. Narduzzi is hard. He's hard. He's like, he's ripping on West Virginia now. Neil's got class there, and he probably took the high road on that. But you better understand what that rivalry is. I think he does now a lot better than he did last year.
So, number 3, you're going to be really happy about this. It was that game winner by Hostetler where you were talking about earlier, that fake handoff to your brother Ron.
Yep.
I got the name right. I just want to make sure.
Yep.
And that game winner by Hostetler, that was awesome. And number 2 is 4 seconds on a stopped clock, 1975, and that was Bobby Bowden's final year at West Virginia, I believe, before he left for Florida State.
Yeah, not a bad move for him, huh? There's no doubt about it. Yeah, man. I mean, let's go. The kick, it was on national TV. They were number 8th in the country, I believe, Pitt. And the Mountaineers went and they won that game, and they kicked that field goal. And, that was a big, big day. That was the old stadium, too. So there's only a couple years left in that game. But I could tell you the old timers, because I was the head of the alumni for athletics for 12, 13 years. And I know that they just really all go back to that game, point to that game, and it was a wonderful, wonderful moment for them of beating the Pitt Panthers. It really was, and is to this day.
Oh man, it's. I'm so happy that the Backyard Brawl's back for another 3 years. I wish it were annual though, because I mean, let's say if I were running the scheduling for everything college football, Pitt, West Virginia would be annual.
Well, it needs to be, and it's unfortunate that it's not. I will say that I think they could make it that way. I think they could go out of their way and make it. I mean, when you look at it and say, all right, so you sold out all your stadium there at Acrisure Stadium, Steelers Stadium, right? I guess as well. But you sold out all those seats, and it was one of the best viewed Thursday night games of the season. Most viewed, I'll say. Not best viewed, most viewed. I'll use it good English. Okay, so you go ahead, and it shows the interest is in the rivalry. Why would you not want this rivalry every year? Why would you not want it? You have to be dumb as a doorknob to sit there and say, we can't make this work every year? Yes, you could make this work every year. Now, you're going to have to change it, but people are changing schedules left and right to join conferences. Left and right to join conferences. So don't tell me you can't do it, because you can do it if you want to. And that's if you want to. So West Virginia, Pitt, if you want to, you could make this happen. And for the biggest rivalry on one of the oldest, well over the 105 years and probably 110. I have no idea. It's like 110 years now. All right, that they're going to be playing. And like, you don't want to play that game? It's you know what? It's dumb as a doorknob.
And what do you think about like Virginia Tech and because I know like West Virginia's rivals with them. Do you wish it could be like annual, or do you think it should be like switch?
Well, you can't do Maryland. You can't do Virginia Tech and Pitt in the same season. You can't do it. You got to be able to go one or the other, because 2 Power Fives is not cool for your out of conference. You got 9 Power 5 games minimum, right? So now you got 9 Power 5 games minimum, and then you add one with the 10. That means that you could have a G5 and FCS. Because you want to help out the FGS. That's FCS. That's why they got the Duquesne game. Then you want to help out a G5, right? So that's a different. 2 Power 5s are too hard when you got the Big 12 schedule. Hey, all I know is that USC, Nick Saban there in the SEC. Okay, they got plenty of G5 games, and they take off. All right, so I mean, they play their. Don't get me wrong, best conference, no doubt. No one's gonna sit there and argue that, but they don't play 9, 10 Power 5 teams every year.
Well, that they're gonna start doing that in 2025. Bama will start doing that because they'll have Florida State, Wisconsin on that schedule for 2025.
No, 1 year. Okay. Well, hopefully we're not. Now we got to go ahead and do Alabama. See, Shane Lyons up there. That's the problem when you have this new thing, right? It used to be coaches were athletic directors, and athletic directors then understood what coaches went through. Now you have it. So, like Shane Lyons, he came from compliance, right? He's like, hey, let's book Alabama because I was from Alabama. Let's book Penn State, and then we'll book Pitt, and then we'll book Maryland, and we'll play all these teams in 1 year. Excuse me, you're compliance over there. You're not helping your coach out. Okay, by playing that. You're not helping your team out by saying, oh, beginning of the year, we're going to go Alabama and then Penn State. And then we're going to do this. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, man. And then you got 9 games, Power 5. Teams can only go through so much at this level, especially a team such as the Mountaineers. So, again, now you have, say, Ren Baker in there who's a fundraiser, and, he's got his background fundraising. So they don't understand. And you got to do the fundraising now because it's about money. Everything's about money. And I understand why you have to have a fundraiser in there. But it still doesn't help the coaches, and it doesn't help the coaching assistant. That's my thought on it. And I think if you ever want to get back to common sense, you'd have to go back to coaches and understanding what coaches go through, or at least have a background in it.
So do you want to make a record prediction now, or do you want to wait like a few weeks?
A prediction?
Yeah, on West Virginia. If you had to come up with a record prediction for this year, what would it be?
I'll tell you what, I'm going to go like this. I don't think they're going to go 500. That's what I'm going to say. I'm hoping they do. I'm hoping they win every single game. Hoping if they don't change the way they are, I don't think that they're going to go over 500.
Ooh, doesn't sound so high.
I'll speak the truth. Well, I mean, what have they shown in the past 4 years? What have they shown in the past 2 years? What have they shown in the last year that makes you think differently?
Right. And
what have they done in this offseason, the transfer portal? They got 14 recruits in the transfer portal. 9 of them are G5 or FCS. Okay, so that's 5. And that's not even true Power 5s. So, I mean, so we got 9 G5. What have they done to show? What have they done to improve this defense? So what have they done? Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I'm asking you, Jackson.
They haven't done much so far.
But. I mean, I'm just being – so my thing is this. It's called the Wolfman's Call for a reason.
Yeah.
And that means I'm making calls, and I'm telling the truth because I'm not going to sit here. Now, I went 10 years being in the network. I went 10 years of having to put a good spin on it. Now, I always told the truth, and I always believed, but I probably always had a little more optimism than many people. Now, what I'm saying is this. I'm always about optimism. I'm always about, for my young brothers there, under brothers. But I want to see it, man. I want to see a sense of urgency. I want to see what's going on. I want to see that this team understands what it's like to go to Happy Valley and be able to, they're not going to be able to talk to each other. Communication, you can't hear. You cannot hear at Happy Valley. There's 107,000 people screaming. And it's a night game, the first game of the season. They're not going to be able to communicate. And if you don't have an idea of what you're going to go in against, if you don't have a hard-nosed edge, Penn State is hard-nosed right now. The team that they have is a team that has been battled and has been through the gauntlet. And they've come out well, even though they lost some key players in the NFL. They're reloading. They got some running backs. They got an offensive line that's truly as impressive as the Mountaineers' offensive line. But you know what they got? They got a defense over there.
Yeah.
And when you can stop a defense and when you can stop teams from scoring and you're not allowing 33 points a game. Now, let's go West Virginia. Go in there and stop them, and then we're talking. Go in there and play well against them. And then, hey, man, we're cooking with some good, chicken wing grease. When you got that grease cooking, man, it's good. Good grease, right? If you're not, well, then you got to sit there and say, hey, where do we got to make changes? What do we got to do? And that's what I'm talking about. And they got to look at themselves. Again, you just heard Pat McAfee and Kirk Herbstreit laughing about the Mountaineers winning 6 games. To me, that's, you know what that is? That's a national joke now. That was on national TV at Herbstreit, as much as I think, whatever I think of him. But regardless, I would take that as a chip on my shoulder, and I'd be like, we're going to prove them wrong.
There you go.
Let's go ahead. Let's circle the wagons, right? Let's get together. Everybody thinks we're a joke. Well, we're going to come out and we're going to show you we're not. That's what I want to see. I want to see urgency. I want to see toughness. I want to see hard nose. I'm pissed off. I'm ready to roll. That's what football is, man. It still is that game. It still is pride. I take pride in myself. I take pride in my team. There's a whole legacy of Mountaineer fans or players that have brothers that played their cans off, and we have to maintain that. We have to maintain that. It's not about I, it's about us, even though this football game now is really about I and the green.
I really hope West Virginia does well this season, but right now, so far, I'm not liking where the season's going.
Well, you got to play the games, and that's what I'm going to say. You got to play the games, and I'm not going to sit there and count them out until they're out, right? I mean, that's the truth. Play the games, and if they can count it out, then you count them out. Because you know what? Because you always make the call, and you don't distort, you don't lie. You just say it's the way it is. You accept it, and then you have to move on and say, how do you get better? How do we accomplish this? How do we go ahead to reach our goals? What are our goals? What's our culture? What's our identity? That's what I want to see for the Mountaineers and figure that out. And that's what I'm hoping Neil Brown establishes this year and his coaching staff.
Well, I hope Neil Brown sees this interview and he hears what you were talking about with Pat McAfee and Kirk Herbstreit and uses that as motivation for his team.
How can you not, Jack? If you got anything to you, if you got any what I call crap coming out of your neck, right? You know, any of that goo. You don't got any of that goo coming out of your neck. You don't have that. What are you even doing in the game?
Exactly. So, yeah. So, from what I'm hearing from you, it's not looking like Neil Brown's going to last long. Like, he's
okay, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that they go ahead, they put all that together. They can make it last long. They need to put it together. But if they don't, well, then, hey, that's life, right? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you know, everybody gets canned now and then. Everybody.
There we go. And we're going to wrap this show up to tell the audience about where they can find you. For those who want to discuss West Virginia football or West Virginia basketball, where can they find you, Dale?
Well, you'll find me at the Wolfman's Call.
There you go.
Come on, man. Hey, listen, it's at Wolfley64 on Twitter. It's the voice of college football, West Virginia. It's Facebook, Dale Wolfley, WV, all that right there. Wolfman WV. Good, I forgot it. Thanks for that. You got up there and you can catch it, man. And like I said, the show's Monday through Thursday. You can rock and roll. You can get on. I say join the conversation. Anyone can jump on. You get on and come on and talk about it. We have great guests. They're always my Mountaineer brothers, coaches, something that is an influence and all just part of Mountaineer Nation. And it's a good show, man. It really is pretty cool. And I guess I'm just saying that because it's me, but I still think it's a good show.
Well, it's an awesome show, my friend. I am loving the Wolfman's Call. And if you want to hear some takes on West Virginia football, West Virginia basketball, let me make sure I got the point right. This is the go-to guy, the Wolfman. And if you want to watch Wolfman's Call, can't find it on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, go on this link on Linktree, and that's where you will find his other show, The Three Wolves of Football. Like, comment, subscribe, and give a follow and thumbs up. And I'll catch you next time, everyone. So long, everyone. And Dale, thank you for coming on to the Jacksonian. It's greatly appreciated.
My pleasure, brother. Cheers.
Cheers. And a happy early 4th of July to you, and happy 4th of July to everybody. So long, everyone.